Welcome back, everyone. Here we are, lesson 2.6 or unit 2, lesson number 6, all about adaptations. Hopefully, you kind of understand the basis of an adaptation, but we're going to kind of go through it. It is a shorter lesson, so those of you that are keeping score, I think you appreciate the shorter lessons. I'm going to assume you appreciate the shorter lessons. I will tell you, unfortunately, there are longer lessons coming in the not so distant future. So please bear with us. College Board says that you should be able to describe how organisms adapt to their environment. So we're talking about adaptations. We're talking about how organisms adapt to their environment. So let's go through in the understanding of what is an adaptation. So what is an adaptation? An adaptation is going to be a change or a process of change that is going to allow a species to become better suited to its environment. So it wants something to be able to survive better in its environment. Most adaptations actually start out as mutations. Most mutations can be very detrimental to an organism's success. If it's detrimental, the organism dies off, it's eliminated from the gene pool. If it is beneficial, however, it's going to maybe give that organism an advantage and allow them to survive and reproduce. So therefore, they are going to produce more offspring, which means that the gene pool is now going to contain more alleles for this mutation, which is advantageous to the organism. So one of the things we talk about when we talk about adaptations is how do adaptations and evolution go hand in hand? And one of the ideas of how do adaptations and evolution go hand in hand is when we talk about something called graduated or punctuated equilibrium. It's the rate at which evolution is kind of occurring. Now, there's a couple different theories about this. One is the idea of what's called gradualism, which leads to a very slow incremental changes. So these are theories because we don't really know exactly, but we can have a lot of evidence that can actually back up both of them. But evolution takes such a long period of time, we don't truly see it happening. But what it's saying is that there's small incremental changes that over time lead to a more drastic change. That's gradualism. Compare that to punctuated equilibrium, which says that there's a major change. All of a sudden, a major mutation, something else that causes that organism to kind of almost instantly have an advantageous effect within the ecosystem. So the different ways to look at it. Does it go really, really slowly and gradually change over time, refining that organism all along the way? Or is it more punctuated and that is instantly, boom, a bigger, longer bill or a stubbier bill or something to that effect? So there's different ways to look at the origins of adaptations. Now, how does the environment influence adaptations? Changing environmental conditions threaten a species' chance of survival. Again, we talked about natural disruptions to ecosystems. We've talked about conditions being favorable, and if they are optimal, organisms are going to reproduce more frequently. Now, when they're optimal and they're reproducing more frequently, is that leading to a gradualistic change? Or does that lead to all of a sudden an organism being born that is drastically different, better adapted? Who knows? Okay. Now, one of the things that can happen is that organisms can alter their behaviors. So organisms can alter their behaviors, and by altering your behavior, what you can do is you can gain an advantage over another organism. Now, here's the thing that gets kind of interesting. True adaptations are generally physiological. They are physical adaptations that allow an organism to survive, and then it alters its behavior because of it. Okay? There are some behavioral adaptations that, especially with some of our more cognitively advanced organisms, we're starting to see. We've seen examples of primates, simple primates using tools. We've seen different birds using tools to solve different problems. We've seen organisms coexisting within human developments. There's examples of different types of crows and ravens, which they're very, very intelligent organisms. The corvids are very intelligent as a classification of bird, but they'll drop seeds on roadways, so when a car drives over, it crushes it and opens it. These are all different behavioral adaptations that are helping to an organism to survive. Now, when we talk about warming of the planet, how is that going to impact species that are trying to survive? If we're talking about, is there more food available now because it's a longer growing season? Are we looking at more droughts? Are we looking at less hiding spots or more hiding spots because the foliage is out longer? There's so many different factors that all go into it and all influence the adaptations within an organism. With that, I conclude this lesson on adaptations. Do you understand how an adaptation works? Do you understand how it gives an organism an advantage in reproducing? Do you understand when we talk about survival of the fittest, the idea that organisms that are best adapted to their environments, the ones that are going to waste the least amount of energy in their pursuit of other organisms, in the survival methods, those organisms are going to be best adapted to survive. If you fully understand that, fantastic. You're ready to move on to the next lesson. If you do not, I recommend you kind of reach out to me somehow, preferably through email, and we'll set you up and we'll try to figure out a way to kind of go through this stuff. But I appreciate you sitting tight, listening through this lesson. Hopefully it's not too boring. Hopefully we're working our way back towards being in school. But in the meantime, I appreciate all the efforts you guys have done. And I look forward to seeing you with our next lesson. Thank you.